Hello everyone. Today we're going to discuss the steps to reversing your type 2 diabetes, which is reversing your insulin resistance. Because type 2 diabetes is simply an advanced form of insulin resistance. Okay. So in part 1, we talked about two myths of type 2 diabetes. The first is that our glucose tests, our HbA1c tests, it's not reliable. It's not a reliable way of finding out whether you are diabetic or not. Okay. And this is because our blood glucose fluctuates all the time. Your body works very hard to maintain a healthy blood glucose level. Okay. And you remember our graph as well. So we established that the red bar represents our blood sugar and the blue bar represents our insulin. So that's the amount of insulin it would take to manage that blood sugar level. So let's use a plate of spaghetti. So in year 1, you eat a plate of spaghetti and you would need 5 blocks of insulin to tackle that 1 plate of spaghetti. Okay. Now, 5 years later, you are still eating your carbohydrate foods. Nothing really changes in your diet. Your habits don't change. You are just living your life. You are consuming your sugar. At this point, you are probably in your 20s, your 30s. You are living your best life. I mean, you don't really care about your health at that point in time. Okay. So in year 5, that's 1 plate of spaghetti. Anytime you eat high carbohydrate foods, that one plate of spaghetti would now take 2 times as much insulin than it is supposed to. Okay, so now you use 2 blocks of insulin to tackle 1 plate of spaghetti. Okay, now in year 15, you would now use 4 blocks of insulin to tackle that 1 plate of spaghetti. At year 15, you are already a pre-diabetic patient. But because your glucose tests are not a reliable way of finding out whether you are diabetic or not, when you check your blood glucose, it would read something above 5, maybe 5.7, 5.3. That is if you are using a HbA1c test. If you are using a regular glucose test, then maybe to read something like 115. Okay, 115, 115 milligram per deciliter when you check your readings. Meanwhile, inside of you, you are using 4 times more insulin than you are supposed to tackle just that 1 plate of spaghetti. Okay, so when you take your readings in year 15, you look okay. It seems like, oh, it's not really that bad. Okay, inside of you, it's bad. Okay, now in year 20, you are already a full-blown diabetic patient. At that point in time, you would need 6 blocks of insulin to tackle that 1 plate of spaghetti. And even that 6 blocks of insulin is not able to manage your blood sugar. When you take your glucose test, it would still read very, very high. So at that point, if you take a HbA1c test, it would read as high as 6. It would read as high as 7. If you are using a glucose test, it would read as high as 130, 140, 150. Okay, so this is what we are talking about, insulin resistance. And in the previous video, we also established that type 2 diabetes is not just about your blood sugar. You have 2 problems in one as a diabetic patient: your high blood sugar and your insulin resistance. Okay, so this is simply the recap that I have for you, because we are continuing based on, the video of part 1. So insulin resistance is when your cells no longer respond to insulin. So according to my graph, you would realize that when you are insulin resistant, it means that you are now using 5 to 7 times more insulin than you are supposed to, than normal. Okay, now because you are insulin resistant, your cells no longer respond to insulin. That means that when you eat food, your body no longer responds to your nutrients. Your body no longer responds to your glucose. That means that when you eat food, your body doesn't absorb your nutrients as it is supposed to. And that's why you are hungry and you are thirsty all the time as a diabetic patient, because your blood sugar, your blood glucose is just lying there in your blood. It's not being used. And the more your body releases that insulin, because your cells are insulin resistant, nothing happens. So your body is actually in a confused state. Okay, so this is the reason why many of you are hungry and you are thirsty all the time, as a diabetic patient. Okay, so what are the consequences of insulin resistance? We have high blood sugar. Okay, because like I said, your body is insulin resistant, so your nutrients aren't really going into your cells as they are supposed to. Okay, so it just remains in the blood. Okay, so as a result of insulin resistance, your blood sugar raises. Okay, insulin resistance also inhibits weight loss. That's one of the reasons why many of you find it difficult to lose weight, because no matter what you do, if you don't get off insulin resistance, no matter how many times you restrict your diet or how strict your diet is, or however punishments you give yourself when it comes to your diet and cutting off foods and exercising, it's like you're not getting anywhere because your body is insulin resistant. Okay, so your cells are not responding. Another thing is your frequent hunger, like I have explained, and frequent urination as well as a diabetic patient. Okay. Now, insulin resistance also enhances syndrome X. Okay, I remember we spoke about this in our previous video. Okay, because of insulin resistance, many people have what we call metabolic syndrome. Many of the things that kill us today in our world is linked to this metabolic syndrome. Things like cancer, liver disease, high blood pressure, stroke, kidney failure, all these things are connected to syndrome X. And syndrome X is mainly a result of insulin resistance. So if you look closely, what really kills people more, we say many times that it's heart disease or it is cancer. The real problem is insulin resistance. I believe that that's the number one killer in our world today, this insulin resistance, because it is linked to many things. It is the host of many other diseases, including diseases that are as a result of syndrome X. Okay, so your cancer, liver disease, etc. Everything can be linked back to this insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is just a fancy word for pre-diabetes. So many people are walking around today in the world, they are pre-diabetic and they would never know because they never check their blood sugar. They never take these tests. And even if they do, the test will only read a little jump in a health, it will just jump a little, than what is normal, than a normal blood sugar level. Meanwhile, inside of them, like I have already explained using the graph, things are not okay. But because you've taken a blood test, you see that, oh, it's just a little jump. Nothing is really wrong with me. It's in a healthy range, I'm okay. 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, they pronounce you a diabetic patient and you begin to ask yourself, what went wrong? Okay, this is as a result of decades. It has just been building up, but you just didn't know it. Okay, all right. Now, what causes this insulin resistance in the first place? Two major things, okay? Chronic carbohydrate consumption, frequency of meals, okay? Chronic carbohydrate consumption and frequency of meals. So how often do you eat carbohydrate foods? Okay, how often do you eat carbohydrate foods? Also, how much do you eat your carbohydrate foods? If you look at your plates, your breakfast plates, your lunch plate, your dinner over a week, how many times do you eat carbohydrates? Those plates are majorly filled with carbs. So you are eating carbohydrates more than you should. Your plate lacks protein. It lacks healthy fats as well. It lacks vitamins. It lacks minerals. It is majorly carbohydrates. That's our Nigerian diets. Okay, so you eat carbohydrates too much. And also, how many times in a week, how many times in a day do you even eat that carbohydrates? Okay, so that's what causes it. That's the primary cause of insulin resistance. Okay, if we should then talk about things like sugar, then I would have to move my audience a little bit, because many of you in my audience range don't consume sugar. You are well aware of the harmful effects that sugar can have on your system. So many of you don't consume sugar. as much. So diabetes is not really sugar. Diabetes is majorly your carbohydrates, okay, and how often you eat your carbohydrates. And that's what many of us, that's how we were raised in Nigeria. That's our food culture. It is majorly carbohydrate foods, fried foods, okay. Now, if you want to reverse this insulin resistance, what do you have to do? You simply do the opposite of what caused it in the first place. So instead of eating a high carbohydrate diet, what you would then eat is what we call a ketogenic diet or a low carb, high fat diet. Now, when we say low carb, high fat, many people say, oh, I don't want to eat fat. Fat is not good for me. That's not true. There are different types of fats. If I will break it down into simple layman terms, we can say your healthy fats and your unhealthy fats. Okay, your unhealthy fats will go into things like your trans fats, your cholesterol, your saturated fats. Okay, your healthy fats would then be your polyunsaturated, okay, your monounsaturated. Okay, all right. So observing a ketogenic diet is the opposite of a chronic carbohydrate diet. Okay, and for your frequency of meals, the opposite of that is what we call intermittent fasting. Now, if you observe a ketogenic diet and you practice intermittent fasting, it would take you at least the barest minimum 5 to 12 months for you to decrease your insulin resistance to a considerable level. Your insulin resistance, unfortunately, can never go back to the way it was, 20 years ago. However, you can make things better for yourself. You can work your insulin resistance back to at least 80-90%, of what you used to be before. Okay, so the ketogenic diet, let's look at it. A low carb, high fat diet, it doesn't necessarily mean that you would no longer eat your carbohydrates. You can consume your carbohydrate foods, but this time, let your protein and your fat foods be more. When you look at your plates, have more protein, have more healthy fats as opposed to your carbohydrates. Okay, so the ketogenic diet would then lower your blood sugar, and an interesting thing that it would do is to shift your insulin level. Okay, it would shift your body's metabolism. When you eat a low carb food and you eat foods that are high in fats, your body is now forced to make good use of that fats and protein that you have consumed, as opposed to making use of the carbohydrates. What I'm trying to say is your body's energy level, your body's fuel, what your body is using to power itself, that's glucose that your body is using to power itself, that it would usually get from your carbohydrates, your body would now get it from your protein and your fats. Okay, so you're forcing your body's metabolism away from your carbohydrates so that you can burn the fat that you have stored, first of all, in your system and that you are currently consuming. And because your protein and your high fat foods have a very low glycemic index, it is better for your body and your insulin levels will drop. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now, if you consume your regular keto diet, it gives you about 20% of the work, while your intermittent fasting carries 60% of the work. Now, if you eat a healthy keto, you would take in 30% and your intermittent fasting remains at 60%. So you see that your intermittent fasting actually carries the workload, when it comes to reversing your insulin resistance, okay? Your fasting does more work than even your diet itself. So fasting is very important, okay? And it's quite difficult for diabetic patients to fast because one of the symptoms is that you are hungry and you are thirsty all the time, okay? So don't worry, this is kind of a series, so I will talk about intermittent fasting for diabetic patients in my next video, okay? Today, let's focus on your ketogenic diet. So what's the difference between a healthy keto and a regular keto? A regular keto, you are not having a specific plan. All you are doing is what many of you are doing already. Okay, you are cutting down your carbohydrate foods. I don't eat eba. I don't eat potato. I don't eat yam. I don't eat this. I don't eat that. That's what many of you are currently doing right now. You are in your regular keto diet. You don't think about the nutrients and the vitamins that you may be losing out as a result of cutting out all those foods. That's what healthy keto is now about. You are, despite the fact that your carbohydrates are low, when you are practicing healthy keto, you are still getting your essential vitamins and minerals that you should get, that would help your body shift its metabolism away from carbohydrates and then focus its metabolism on your high fats and your protein foods. Okay. Now, these nutrients and minerals I'm talking about, there are a variety of them. And I would say that all of your essential vitamins and minerals are important. Every mineral and every vitamin plays a vital role in your body system. So you can't really do without the other, because many vitamins and minerals, they complement each other. Okay, they help each other work. Okay. However, there are some that you should prioritize, as a diabetic patient. Okay. So when you're practicing healthy keto, yes, your carbohydrate is still low, but now you are eating more protein and you are eating more healthy fats that would then give you these essential nutrients, okay? So that your body can then shift that metabolism away from carbohydrates and then begin to bring down your insulin level, okay? And reduce your insulin resistance. So some of these vitamins and minerals, you have your zinc, you have your chromium, your magnesium, your B vitamins, and your D vitamins. So these are these are the top ones that you should get. Okay, you must be particular about these ones because they are very key when it comes to shifting that metabolism away from carbohydrates, okay, and reducing your insulin resistance. Now, you should also make sure that you exercise, you reduce your stress, and you sleep well. Okay, I saw a comment someone made that if you want to get rid of your insulin resistance, the first thing you should look at in your life is cutting out all these things that stress you out. Okay, things that stress you out a lot, people, activities that stress you out a lot. That's one of the key areas of health. In fact, it should be the first thing, that you should look at. So please try anything that would cause you excess stress, chronic stress. Stress is just your body is now paying attention to your external environments more than it should pay attention to your internal environment. So you need your body to focus on its metabolism more than it is in fight or flight mode. Okay, so please outsource anything that may stress you out. Okay, and also try to get as much sleep as you can. Okay, now many of you already know, but I would remind you, this is what your meal plan helps you to do. Your 1 month diabetes meal plan helps you. It's a ketogenic based meal plan. Okay, so in your meal plan, you may find foods that you are not very familiar with, but you cannot continue in the way that you have been doing before. If you continue eating the way you are eating now and you are not getting any results, you are not going to get results by continuing in that way. Okay, that is insanity to keep doing something thinking that it would then change across the line. Okay, so yes, in your meal plan, you would see foods that you wouldn't really eat on a regular basis, but that's why it's a meal plan. I wouldn't give you something that would just keep you where you are. If you really, really observe this keto plan, you will see changes when it comes to your blood sugar. Okay. Yes, it is tough. Okay. It is tough to go out there and to look for these foods. And I've tried my best to make, to give you indigenous food so that it is not as difficult, but you must change your habits. You must change your eating patterns. You cannot continue eating the way you are eating now, cutting down on a lot of food without supplementing them with your healthy fats and your protein. Okay, get all those nutrients that you are supposed to get now from your protein and your healthy fats. Okay, so if you are going to observe a keto plan, if you are serious with it, it's going to task you a little bit. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you should give up, because if you want to get results, then you cannot continue in the way that you have been going. Okay, you need to make these changes. Changes are what are important. Okay, now for your supplements, all these nutrients that I mentioned before, these 5 essential ones, what your wellness supplements would now do for you is, in cases where you are unable to get in your zinc, where you are unable to get in your chromium, your B vitamins, your D vitamins, okay, the wellness supplements would then help you with that, okay, so that anytime that you are eating a low carb and you are also eating low fat and also low protein, the essential nutrients that your body needs to help you shift its metabolism are not lost because you have your wellness supplements with you. Okay. And right now with the Velosophy, you have your multivitamin and mineral now in a separate pack. So let's say you don't want to get the entire wellness pack. You can now get just your multivitamin tablets, okay, in a separate container, okay, so that you don't have to get in the omega-3s and the astaxanthin. If you do, then you are just having more benefits, okay. But if you don't want to, if you just want to focus on these vitamins and minerals I have talked about, then we have made it easier for you and it's also more affordable, okay. So that's for that. Now let's look at why these minerals and vitamins are important. Well, I have already explained this. It helps. They are very, very key when it comes to shifting your body's metabolism and, bringing down your insulin levels. Okay. There is no medication that you are going to take that would bring down your insulin. There is no medication. I want to repeat it. There is no medication you are going to take that will bring down your insulin. If there was a medication that you can take or an injection that you can take that will bring down this insulin so that you can be less insulin resistance, you would have a cure for diabetes in the pharmacy. You will have a cure for diabetes when you go to see your doctor. They will just give you a tablet and they will say, take, and all your diabetes is gone forever. It is only your food that can get you such results because your food is what led you to that place. Okay? So it's only via these vitamins and minerals that you can reverse this insulin resistance, okay, and also over time. So they are very, very important, and that's why your supplements are important as well, because with your day-to-day activities, it's a lot, okay, to be able to get in all of those vitamins and minerals that are essential, okay. So these vitamins and minerals, they would help to, reduce the production of your insulin, okay, to bring your insulin down, okay. And your additions, if you are getting the wellness pack, you have additions like your omega-3s and your astaxanthin. That would just speed up the entire process for you and also reduce oxidative stress, which is one of the things that causes metabolic syndrome X, and also inflammation as well. Okay, so with those additions, you are just getting extra benefits. All right. So when you begin to observe a ketogenic diet and practice intermittent fasting, how do you know that you are getting better? What are the signs that you should look out for that you may experience and you would be happy with yourself, okay, that you are getting better? The first thing is you can do a HOMA-IR test. Now, this is simply a blood test that is used to measure the insulin your body requires to balance your blood sugar level. So I will take you back to my graph. Try and remember my graph. That's blue bar, okay? That HOMA-IR is what will measure that blue bar for you, okay? You can also check your hunger levels. If you can go longer without eating, that is, if you can fast for longer periods, that means that you are making progress. That means that your insulin resistance is improving, okay? If your belly fat is also going down, especially the fat that is surrounding your liver, okay? That liver fat, especially when it begins to reduce, then you know that you are on the right track, okay? Now you have your blood pressure and of course your blood sugar. When they are going down as well, that's also a good sign that, your ketogenic diet and your intermittent fasting, is helping you and you are recovering, okay? Another thing you're going to notice is your energy level. So many of you are going to have more energy, okay, to do the things that you want to do. Why? Because now your cells are no longer insulin resistant. They are accepting the glucose. They are accepting the nutrients that you are consuming. Your body is making use of the food. It's not just lying there in your blood, causing your blood sugar to go high. Okay, so you are now making good use of it. You are making good use of your fuel, okay, and it increases your energy. Another thing you're going to experience is your satiety level. That is, you are going to be more satisfied when you eat the right food. Okay, remember I mentioned it's a symptom of diabetes when you are hungry all the time. When you begin to eat the right food, that is your keto foods, when you begin to eat well and you are satisfied, that's a sign that you are on the right track, that your insulin resistance is reducing. Okay. Another thing we want to look at is your dawn phenomenon. So many of you wake up in the morning and your blood sugar is already high without you even eating anything. If you check your blood sugar in the morning, your fasting blood glucose, it's already high when you just wake up in the morning. Okay. So when you are getting better, that blood sugar in the early morning will begin to reduce as well. Okay, so that's a sign. So if you have the dawn phenomenon, that is when you check your blood sugar every morning when you wake up, your fasting blood glucose, if it is no longer as high as it used to, that means that you are making progress. Okay, and please be patient, be extremely patient with yourself. You did not get here in weeks. We are not going to get out of this in weeks as well. Please stop looking for fast fixes. They do not exist. Okay, the first thing you have to do is to understand what your body is going through, and that's one of the reasons for my video. Understand what your body is going through. When you listen to my videos, I try to help you understand what is going on in your body system so that you can stick to it long term. Okay, and please remember, it will take you at least 5 to 12 months for you to experience a reduction in your insulin resistance, which is so much better, so much better than being on constant medications all the time. Okay, I don't need to tell you, you already know what you are suffering in the hands of your medications. Okay, so tackling your problem from the roots is going to help you so much better. Okay, so it's better to give yourself that 1 year, okay, than to depend on medications 5, 10, up to 20 years, like so many of you are on. Okay, so thank you for listening to my video. Our next topic is going to be how you can fast intermittently for diabetic patients. Okay, so please share this with a friend who might need it, who might be interested, and I hope that this video was helpful to you. Please drop your comments down below. Ask me your questions either on the group chats, on my YouTube video, wherever it is you're watching this video, if it's on my Facebook, if it's on YouTube, if you got it via email, however you can reach me, I would be very happy to take your questions, okay? Because we are not live, okay? All right, so I will see you in the next one. Take good care of yourself. Bye.